Welcome back to So Quarter. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Saturday morning, bright and early. Saturday. Right, we've got a brilliant Saturday for you. A lovely quilt. We absolutely love this. We've already had so many people emailing in about it after we've filled our walls with quilts today. It's brilliant. Even blocked all of the televisions, but it's fine. We've just said, right, how can we fit in more quilts? We've got so much coming up today. So we've got a lovely quilt by Karen Lewis called Under the Stars. Two different kits, the blue and the red. Now, initially, I thought, right, the blue is going to be the most popular. I love this sort of blue look. And then I have seen the one come in today with in the reds, and it's beautiful. I actually think I favour the red. So let's start with the blue anyway, because the blue is probably the most similar to the one that you'll see on the front of the cover and the one on the wall, but there are some changes, just so you know. So instead, like, you can see the white there. I'll go through it with Emma, but you get the solid. So you have this blue, which I think is going to be used for the centre of the squares. So the blue solid. So you get 6.5 metre of fabrics, all cut by the 1/2 metre. So you have the blue solid, you have the linen, well, it's 100% cotton, but it's the linen texture. I've not seen some of these actually. This one's new to me. I love that. Lovely teal. 1/2 metre again, like a medallion. 1/2 metre of Cafe, from Cafe's new collection. I love that. 1/2 metre again. There's so many things that I've not seen before. 1/2 metre of your linen texture, 100% cotton. These are your lighter blues. Your stripe, floral. They all work beautifully together though. They're going to look great for this scrappy quilt. And 1/2 metre of this floral. Nice and fresh and springy, isn't it? Add a bit of colour into your house. You get 2 threads as well to start you off, and you get Karen's full instructions, which are very comprehensive actually. You've got a lot of instructions here, which I know that Emma has said to make sure you read them all through, have a good read of them all before you start. I'm like it with everything in life. If you get a flat pack something or you want to try something out, I'm awful for reading instructions. I almost feel like I failed if I have to get the instructions out. So no, sit and read the instructions first. It'll save you, cutting the wrong fabrics, because it's all listed in here how to do it. There is your step-by-step. There's all the guide as well, of placement guides, where to put everything. Nice and clear. £87.99. Do you know what? That is really good value for money for the amount of fabric that you're getting as well, because it's a big quilt. The finished size of it was 72 by 72. Yeah, 72 by 72. 72-inch square. So a big, big quilt. Now, the pink and reds. I love this. I absolutely love this. I think it looks gorgeous. I don't know whether it's this gingham print that sort of comes out. It looks so pretty. I love it. Right. So 1/2 metre again of all of the fabrics. I'll quickly scan through, but you will get 1/2 metre of each of these. The floral, the Cafe. That's lovely fabric, isn't it? That gingham with the hearts, really pretty, really country. And this is enough, by the way, for the front of your quilt and your binding. So a big quilt, 72-inch square, and it's going to be enough for the front and the binding. I thought they were little flamingos, little flowers. Your ditzy prints. We've really put together some really beautiful prints, because quite often when you're making quilts like this, I was talking to a lady who put together a big patchwork quilt, and I said, oh, how long did that take you? It just looks so complex. And she says, well, the actual sewing itself didn't take too long. The collecting of the fabric took about 4 years. Going around and picking all fabrics that are going to work together is quite a task in itself. So what I love about all these kits is that we've done the hard work for you. We've picked out lots of lovely designer fabrics, put them all together. £89.99, brilliant value for money. You'll get it all ready to go with your, oh, look at that. I tell you what, from a distance as well on that picture, I see it completely different to how I see it on the wall there. It's quite a bit of an optical illusion as well. I love that. You can really see how important it is to place that dark and light fabric to get that effect, that almost like quite three-dimensional. I love it. You also get all of your instructions in there as well. Brilliant. Should we go across? Let's go across. No. Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's so lovely to finally meet you.
Yes.
I feel like I've seen you so many times. You've been here like 7 times, and
Yeah.
I've never actually met you. So it's lovely to meet you. Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Happy New Year.
Have you had a good Christmas, New Year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been good. My daughter and my granddaughter were at home for the whole month of December. We have a Christmas tree farm in our village, so she was working at the Christmas tree farm. So we got to have them for the whole of Christmas.
Oh,
so that was really nice.
So busy.
Busy, yeah.
And are you
really
back
fun.
at work now as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I was actually in Holland Thursday.
This lady is a jet setter. She was in Holland on Thursday, then up here, and
Yeah.
because but you have to stay in Birmingham when you're here, and you live not too close anyway. So
yeah. So I spent overnight last night. So yeah.
Brilliant. Wow. So lovely projects today. Actually,
It is. I love it. And like you said, I've been quilting for 20 years, and I would struggle to find 12 fabrics that would go together like this. So the fact that it's all in a kit is
helps,
really nice.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You spend a lot of time, and it's a skill in itself working out which shades and which tones sort of all work together. Because this is about that exactly, isn't it? Having the different colours, the darker colours and the lighter colours, giving you that effect.
All of that.
When I looked at it, it doesn't. You don't see it until you're sort of far away. How important that light and dark is.
Yeah.
So we are going to talk about sort of organisation first.
Yes.
Now you said you had to read through these, and when you said
Yes.
that, I thought, yeah, they're instructions. Of course you read through.
I know, but
we were all the same. We just want to jump in and start
exactly.
cutting
And because it's a
sewing.
log cabin, which tends to be one of the simpler quilts, a lot of experienced quilters, I think, were just like, oh, it's log cabin, I'll just jump in.
Yeah.
Which it's not complicated. Like you said, the sewing part isn't complicated. It's the organisation of the fabrics, and because it's scrappy, it takes a little bit of planning to make sure, at least for me, I don't like to have too many fabrics that are the same next to each other. And like you said, so these calf ones, they really pop.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that there's some planning.
Them,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I love scrappy, but I think a lot of quilters will be also quite particular about how they want it. You don't want it too scrappy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do you organise it then? What do you do when you get the kit?
Yeah, so the instructions, I just wanted to point out. So because they are different, the first thing you need to do is decide which fabrics are you going to categorise as a light, a dark and a background. And so your colours, your dark one is colour 1, your light one is colour 2. And then in the instructions, you get all of the instructions for cutting your dark fabric first. So even though it says your centre block, that's only the instructions for the dark fabric.
Right.
Not the whole of the centre block.
So you've just made a note as well saying go on dark. So
yes.
Because you are quite often, this is a quilt, it's a big quilt, you might not get it done all in a
all
weekend.
In one.
So if you put it away and come back to it.
You've got to know what you're doing, you remember. So I've organised that first so I know what I'm doing. And then with the blues, I've organised them. So this is one of my background fabrics. I haven't cut those yet. So I've classified these as my background, as they're the lightest.
Yeah, I think with this bundle actually, it is quite easy to differentiate which ones are your lighter ones, which ones are darks. Yeah.
There's a little bit of preference, if you want to. So that I've considered a dark, that's a dark, that's a dark. And I've put this as a dark. Oh, this one, the stripe is a seersucker as well. So a seersucker. So if you feel the fabric, it's a little bit textured.
Oh yeah,
it's a little bit lighter. So it's 100% cotton, so it works fine in the quilt. But what I like about it, and the red one has some different ones as well, is that it adds to the scrappy.
Right.
Because it's a little bit different than just your flat cottons, as well as the calf is more of a batik type texture.
Yeah.
So I like that. But I just wanted to point that out because if you're touching them and you're like, oh, that's a bit different. Those are my darks, and then I've put these as my light blues.
This is nice to add in with it as well, isn't it? Actually, just add a bit of pop, a bit of colour. Slightly different to the one here, but I do like the ditzy sort of florals that we've added, so that will work really well.
And then my linen I've put as that, and then these are my darks again. So that's how I've categorised them. So these are my darks, my lights, and my background.
Right.
So that's the first thing you need to do. And then, make sure I need to keep these in order because that's the other thing. So part of my, I've because I used to work in the lab.
Yeah, so your science brain switched
yes.
on. Yeah, okay.
And there's a lot of repetitive, boring tasks, but you have to make sure you do them in order.
Right.
And you have to make sure, so if you're making up, for instance, solutions, you have to remember to put the right thing in the right order, or make sure you don't miss anything out. So I always used to have a system that I used to put the same thing in the same place, so that I knew, just by looking at where my setup is.
That goes 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah.
Once I've used it, it goes over here. If it's not been used yet, it stays here, and things like that. So I like to
incorporate that into your quilting.
Exactly, yeah. Because often, if you're in the lab and you're working, or even when you're sewing, somebody comes in and talks to you, you'll get interrupted, or you get interrupted by the doorbell or something, and you come back and like, oh, where was I? Did I do that? And
Well, I'm doing all of my sewing on the dining room table, so at some point we have to eat, and I'm like, no, don't interrupt, I've got to move everything away. So if you've got everything organised.
So what I've done here, I've already cut all of my strips out. This is all the strips for the centre block.
Are they 2-inch strips?
They're 2-inch strips, and I'll get to that. But what I've done is I've laid them, stacked them up in order of how they're going to go sewn together.
Okay.
So I know as soon as I pick up the first strip, that's going to be the next one to sew.
Okay. So and how have you organised them? Just as in sort of, if you just put them quite separate away from each other. So if you are doing the darks, do you know what I mean? Like how, you said you're going to separate your caves so that they're, how do you do that?
Okay, I'll get to that.
Okay.
Let me do the strips first.
Yeah, I'm skipping ahead.
Yeah, that's the centre block. So this is my background. I'm just going to show cutting strips, just because if you've never done it before, I actually learned how to do it by watching somebody on the telly, like, so that's how you do it.
Right.
So I think it's always helpful. So this
I've been looking on the Sewn Quarter fan page actually, and there's got a lot of people who are saying, I'm new to quilting this year, can you show sort of right back to basics of cutting?
Yeah. So I've got my 1/2 metre length, I've already pressed it. And what I do, because you often find, you match up your selvage edges. Now, if I were to match them exactly on the side, you'll see they're not entirely. And that's just because of the way that the fabrics are on the bolt. The top layer and the bottom layer skews a little bit.
So you need to straighten it up.
You need to straighten it up so that you'll cut along the grain. If you don't straighten up your fabric before you cut it, you'll end up with strips that are sort of zigzag.
Okay.
Yeah. Which isn't a huge problem. It can still be used, but it isn't ideal. So I line up my selvage edges, and then I hold it up and I flatten out my fabric so that I know it's straight. So if I show you the wrong way first, so this is a little bit off. So if I were to exactly line that up at the corner there, and then try to do it, you'll see that there's a bit of a wrinkle.
Yeah, it's not going to like that.
And also my selvage edges aren't exactly straight with each other. So you just got to shift them so that it completely lies flat and straight.
Do you pre-wash your quilting fabric?
I do.
Yeah, okay, so I do. There's a lot of people that say no, so it's all, is it personal preference?
It is a lot of personal preference. So the reason I do wash, I don't tend to do it for the quilts I make for the show, because if you don't wash, they are a little bit easier to work with, and also they stay a little bit cleaner because there's things in the fabric to sort of keep it nice.
Yeah, and the dressing,
The reason, my own personal quilts, I do pre-wash everything. One, to get it to pre-shrink, and also to wash the sizing out of it.
Okay.
So that's the stuff inside the fabric that it's treated with to keep it nice and flat. The reason I like the sizing out of it is because when I'm working on it, it can make me sneeze and my nose run.
Oh.
So if you're ever working on a quilt with unwashed fabrics,
and you find yourself sneezing.
It could be that that's making you sneeze.
Oh,
and I've known a few quilters that it affects them that way as well as just the fluff and dust from quilting, but it helps to eliminate that. Right, so I've got my selvage edges together. I folded it in half and I folded it into a quarter. Now I'm going to line up my edge against the line on the cutting mat, making sure that all of my edges are overlapping, at least one line, so I have a nice clean cut on the edge. Through. Now when you're cutting strips, you need to make sure to either use the lines on your mat or the lines on your ruler, not both.
Okay.
Just because they can, even with the same brands, if you match the brand of your mat to your ruler, they can be a little bit different from each other.
Yeah,
But if you always use the same measurement tool, they'll be consistent.
The Creative Grids ones are great, aren't they? That they're so accurate. You
they
know,
are,
that you can't go wrong.
No.
If you're going by your Creative Grid ruler.
Yeah.
Oh, next out we've got a whole selection of Creative Grids for you.
Oh.
Including Stripology.
I used that once. That's nice.
It is so quick and easy, isn't it?
I did use that for one that I actually, that would be good for this one as well.
Yeah, okay.
Because you're doing 2-inch strips all the time. So that's my 2-inch strip. Now for the colours, I've already cut them all out, but for the colours, because I know that I've already got enough, I made a strippy binding on the red one.
Lovely. Oh, it looks lovely.
Yeah. So what I actually did was I cut a 3-inch strip for my binding from each of my colours and put that aside, and then cut my 2-inch strips.
Good idea. Then you know you've got enough.
Got enough, yeah. You've got your binding already set, and then I know there's plenty of 2-inch strips left to cut all of my other pieces. So that's that. And then for organisation,
yeah, this is the bit that I'm not great at. And you've got lots of little plastic bags. Lots of people have different ways of doing it, but plastic bags and notes.
Yes.
Already done.
Yes, you could do that. You could do envelopes, because you don't have a lot of fabric, so envelopes would work really well, and just write on it, on the envelope, what it is. So this is my colour 1, so my dark fabrics. And then all of your dark fabric strips, you'll subcut your 2-inch strips into smaller sections, and it will tell you how many you need for the centre block, for the corners, the middle. So what I did was I made a bag for each strip size.
That is very organised, isn't it? Yeah.
And then I went through and I counted how many I need of each. So for instance, these are my 3.5-inch strips, and I counted that I needed 15 in total. And then to make it really even, out of those 15, I calculated that I need 4 pieces of each at least. So 4 3.5-inch strips from each of my colours.
There you go, so Emma's done the hard work for you.
Yeah, so I did that for everything. So then you've got 5-inch strips, and then 6.5-inch strips, 8-inch strips, and I've got them all separated out, basically.
But if you do want it completely sort of scrappy, you don't need to worry too much about...
No.
Too much about, right, I need 4 of each, I need 4 of this, do you?
No.
Just as long as you've got your light and dark separate. Yes, it will give you that effect.
It will give you that effect. Okay. Yeah. It's just that some quilters can be particular about, oh, I don't want this fabric and this fabric
next to each other. Yeah,
exactly. And it kind of avoids that.
Okay.
Yeah. There was always something else I was going to say. Oh yes. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. So on this quilt, as you can see, each sort of row I've done in the same colour, which is the same as on the blue quilt was done.
Yeah, yeah.
These are all the same. You can actually do this strip a different colour from this strip to this strip. So keeping it in the darks, but you can have a different fabric for each one.
I like it like this. I think it does make it more sort of uniform, doesn't it?
It does.
The same colour.
Yeah, it is nice.
You see that? There you go. So you can see all of these with the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so that's all of those.
I think labelling all of the bags up before you start is handy, isn't it? Because otherwise you're like, right, hang on, I need to put it all away, and then you have, if you've organised yourself beforehand, it helps.
It does help. And like I said, if you are doing it on your dining room table and you need to put everything away and come back to it, it's all organised, you know. So that once you've got all of your pieces cut, this is my background, for instance, which I'll cut these from, it gives you a pictorial breakdown of what the blocks are. So you don't really need to look at the instructions, just at what the blocks are. So it tells you the dark or the light, and then all your sizes of strips that you need to make that block. And it will do it for the centre block. There's so you'll make your middle one first. So you've got 9 blocks in the middle.
Yeah.
That you'll make up first. This is your centre one, and then you've got 4 middle and then 4 corner ones as well that you'll do first, and then you'll do the border one.
Brilliant. Okay.
Okay.
So which one are you putting together now? You're going to do the
Centre
one first?
Yes.
Yeah. And is it like sort of what we know as a traditional sort of log cabin then? The sewing's quite straightforward?
It is straightforward, but I'll give you a couple of tips for how to sew it together.
Yeah.
So I've already started on my centre block. So I've got my darks. This one I have done completely scrappy. So if you were going to do it exactly like this one is, where it's all the same, you would use the same colour all the way around here, and then the same colour all the way around here.
Okay.
But I thought I'd mix it up.
Yeah,
do
see
it a
what
bit different.
the one looks like.
So I've already done 2 rows on there. I need to do the third one. Now, if I had put it away and come back to it, I'm like, ooh, what side do I start on? Because you can't really tell. The way that I always remember is that the side that you'll need to seam will always have one strip that is bordered on either side, so it has 2.
Oh, that is a good way of remembering.
2 seams in it. And then the last one that I will have put on will have it'll be just one complete long strip.
So you know that you're going that way?
Yes.
Okay.
And I always tend to go anti-clockwise, but there's no reason why you can't go clockwise.
Right.
I've known some left-handed people who prefer to do it that way.
Yeah.
And it's fine, as long as you're consistent with all your blocks doing it in the same way, it'll be fine. So I went through all of my bags, and using the pictorial depiction of the block, I picked out all of my strips and the colours and the sizes, and I've laid them in order from longest to shortest, so that I know the one I pick up first will be the next one that I sew. So using that as my starting point, and it's just a 1/4 inch seam allowance.
You got your 1/4 inch foot on as well?
Yep, got my 1/4 inch foot. I love my 1/4 inch foot. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. There are some machines, and this is one of them, where it doesn't always start in the right position.
Okay.
So for this one, you actually have to move it to the right, the needle position to the right, in order to get your 1/4 inch foot. Yeah. My sewing machine at home, it always starts on the left-hand side, so I have to move it to the middle.
Oh, okay.
When I use my 1/4 inch foot, and the amount of times I've broken a needle because I've forgotten to move it over.
Yeah, and it's done straight into the foot.
Yes.
So it is actually quite simple. Those of you that are ambitious beginners, if you've done a lot of sort of straight sewing, then you'll find it's just the organisation.
It is the organisation, just remembering
concentrating
where to start and stop. And actually, I like this as a beginner project because it is literally just straight lines.
Yeah.
There are no corners to match anywhere, really. No. So it makes a really nice beginner quilt because it is so effective once it's done. It's like, oh, that's really, I've just made a quilt. So that's really cool.
Do you press as you go? Would you then press that one?
Yes.
Okay, and do you always press your seams away, like to the dark side, or?
Yes, tend to do it to the dark side. Although on this one, it isn't really as important because you don't really have any corners to match. The only part that you do need to match are the corners here when you sew your blocks together. So what I did with this, once my blocks were all finished, I did 3 strips of 3. So these were a strip, 1 strip, 1 strip. And then I pressed them alternating. So these seam allowances were pressed in and those were out so that they nested in the corner so I can match those up. But that is the only place you really need to match. Everything else.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, so that's my...
Yeah, that's the short one with the 2 either side.
Yep, and so that's going to be my next one. And what you can also do, if you are going to do it completely scrappy like this, before you start sewing it together, and I do recommend this for lots of blocks, is you can actually put it together, sort of lay them out to see what the layout is going to be.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Yeah, and that's what I did for the middle of this one actually. I did the centre block first and then I did my other ones around it, and I laid out all of my fabrics just to see which ones, actually that one goes here, which ones went where and which ones to move, just to test it out before I actually sewed it together and committed.
It's quite good to take a photograph or see, you know, from a
Yes.
distance, isn't it?
I did do that, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And also, even when you're deciding which are your lights and your darks, that's a good method to use. And you can take a picture and then use your black and white setting.
Oh, right.
Yeah, to change it to grayscale to really see which ones are going to pop from others. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like using one of those tonal estimator, isn't
Yes.
it? But I didn't realise, yeah, just setting your phone to black and white, that's good.
Yeah. And that's my last one. And here, for instance, so I'm not entirely happy with that and that being all together. So I do believe these are the same.
Yeah, just checking which ones are the same length.
Yeah. Oh, I think that one has to go there. This one can move from here, and that one was the same as that one, so that one can go there. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I like that.
Yep. Just mixing it up a little bit.
I actually really like this colour bundle because I was thinking, oh, I do love the sort of gingham of this blue and the, but it actually works really well. I love the cave.
Yes, and actually, like you said, looking at the monitor, this quilt looks very different on screen than it does in real life.
Yeah.
So there's this particular pink. It really shows up like a really acidy pink.
Yeah, it does.
A neon pink on the monitor, but it really blends in. In real life, it blends in a lot better.
Yeah.
It's not nearly as...
No, it's not as bright as you think.
No. Now, I mean, I'm using a scant 1/4 inch seam.
Right.
Do you know what that means?
Just off a 1/4 inch.
It is.
Just
so
slightly short of it.
when you sew, your seam line where the thread is actually adds a little bit of bulk, tiny bit of bulk, so maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so.
Okay.
It's not very much, but if you just shift your edge of your seam, edge of your block, that much away from your 1/4 inch foot, that means that your sew line will be included in your 1/4 inch seam allowance.
Right.
So that when you open it up, it really is the full size it should be. So I'll show you, we'll measure it with the ruler when I'm done.
You're not using pins, you don't, no. Don't need to on these sizes.
No, not on this one, it's fine. And I tend not to be a pinner anyway.
Okay, yeah.
Unless it's, I really want to match things up.
Yeah.
And then I do be careful. When I'm doing borders especially,
Yeah.
I pin a lot, just to prevent it from being out. But this is a really nice, the sewing part actually goes really quite quick.
And you've done this automatically, but having your seams up as well really helps, doesn't it? As opposed to flipping it over and sewing it the other way, being able to see that these seams are behaving, going the right way.
Yes, that, and also because my strips tend to be slightly longer than my block that's sewn, just a tiny bit, just because of the seams. What I always do is if I've got 2 pieces of fabric that I need to sew together, and one of them is tiny bit longer than the other, I always put that on the bottom.
Right.
Because the feed dogs will feed that through just a little bit faster, and it will take up a little bit of the slack. So it's one of the ways in quilting that you can use as a fudge factor.
Yeah.
If it doesn't quite match, then that's the way to help match it up. Now, if it's sort of a 1/4 inch difference, then that might be a little bit too much. But anything less than that, you can kind of get away with. So you can see my seam line is right there. And when I put my ruler and I measure 1/4 inch, so I've got my 1/4 inch along the edge of the fabric.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be able to see my sew line on this side at all.
Okay.
It needs to sit inside the 1/4 inch.
Right, okay.
And that's a scant 1/4 inch. And the reason for that is, like I said, because it takes up some bulk. If that was on the inside of your block,
You get a lot of seams,
Yeah.
quite a lot of bulk.
and it just, especially on a log cabin, it adds up. So
Yeah,
that
yeah.
1/16 of an inch, by the time you finished your block, it really...
So that, just to show you like the difference in having all of the different fabrics. Bit more scrappy.
Yeah, very scrappy.
Yeah, I love it. Looks really good. And you're still going to get that same effect because you've done the darks and the lights all round.
And then your background will be very different. So the backgrounds are the lightest ones, so you will still get that contrast.
Oh
So
yeah,
you'll
the
still
ones
get that
around
nice,
this border.
So you'll still get that lovely star effect, which I really like, because a lot of log cabins are traditional, very traditional. So you'll get the barn raising type, or your diamonds. But I really like this star effect. It's a really different take.
Are you going to carry on sewing around the rounds? Okay, we'll go and have a quick recap if that's okay. All right then. Right, let me take this across. Thank you. Right, we'll quickly have a recap. There's the red one. The red one's very, very popular. We love the red as well. The red and the blue, they both, because Paul was saying he prefers the blue one, don't you? I love the red one though. I do love Emma's red one. That looks amazing. See what I mean about that star effect? So impressive. And I love that the border as well is echoing that log cabin sort of style all the way around the outside. You don't need to worry about, which fabric is which. You know, sometimes we say, right, you've got 1 metre of this one, 1.5 metres of this one, you've got 0.5 metre of this one, and 2 metres of this. It's really made simple. You have 0.5 metre of everything. So you can play around however you want. Just cut your 3-inch strips first for your binding. You can do a lovely scrappy binding. And then you cut your 2-inch strips for the rest. So you have your linen texture, your linear, all of your patterns, your florals, 0.5 metre of everything. So they're your darks. There is that lovely batik cape facet. Your gingham with hearts. That lovely vine, more of like a coral. This is the one that looks very, very bright on the screen, but it just blends in beautifully. Pinks. That looks like Liberty, doesn't it? It's not, but it looks. Or is it? No, it's not. Half a metre of each with your 2 threads as well. Colour 365 if you want to add more threads, and all of your instructions. Know that it's very Liberty-esque, isn't it? Lots of people need to check out. The most popular out of the two, £89 and £99, and that is what you can achieve. 72-inch square quilt, massive square. If you want to add backing, let's go for the red. This is your extra wide backing. Right, Paul's saying he thinks that you'll need about 2 metres. Emma, do you know do you know how much you were sent? 2 metres. Emma thinks it was 2 metres. That's your red paisley. So it's extra wide. It's 108 inches wide, or 274 centimetres. I'm not going to open it out, but it is that extra wide, so you don't need to worry about using up your stash or finishing all of this lovely sewing and then going, oh, now I've got to back it. Now I've got to get the fabric to back it. You don't need to piece so much because you've got that extra wide backing. Blue. This is Paul's favourite. Blue bundles are always very, very popular, actually, whenever we do a blue bundle. Whether you choose to use the same fabrics as Emma has done, or the scrappy version that she's demonstrating now. Looks really gorgeous, doesn't it? And you've got such a great blend of fabrics that work so well together. The solid, the linen texture, the florals, the cafe. 1/2 metre of all of these fabrics. So, as I said, it really does mean that you are eliminating the frustration of thinking, right, okay, hang on, right, I've got to work this out. I get 1 metre of this, I get 2 metres of this, I get 1.5 metres, get 0.5 metre of this, and then which is enough to do which parts. 0.5 metre of each does mean that you can just have a bit of a play, use whatever fabrics you want. Just remember to cut your binding first. A lot of people adding this one to their basket. You get your 2 threads, and that you see in the picture of the blue, it's to achieve the blue colourway, but slightly different to the one that's on the wall, slightly different variation in fabrics. Okay. The backing is going to look great with this one, is the blue. You can see that paisley print clearer with this one, can't you? So this one you're going to need 4 units, 2 metres. 108 inches wide, £10.99. New buyers, brilliant! What a great new purchase. Maybe you're thinking, right, new year, new project, and as Sarah said, this would be a really, really nice. Maybe Emma said, sorry, this would be a really nice first quilt. So this is the new buyer offer that we have on at the moment. Those of you that are brand new to Sew & Quilter. Oh almost £30. Gift worth nearly £30. You get all of the fabric and the sewing kit as well. For less, under just about £30. Brilliant. Hello.
Yeah, it's getting there.
So we're still going round. How many rounds are there in the block?
So for the centre ones, there's quite a bit. So there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds, because it makes about a 15.5-inch or so block in the centre, which makes it nice because you've only got 9 big blocks to do. So again,
brilliant, yeah.
For a beginner, you don't have to do a million, little blocks.
This is something you did over New Year, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I did. I actually, let's see, how long did it take me? I think it took me maybe a couple of days.
That's crazy. Quilting machines we've got here.
Just to make the top. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I love your quilting, by the way. You've got a long arm quilt, haven't you?
Yes.
So that heart looks beautiful. That looks really nice. You go to town. But the great thing about, if you are a beginner, because you've got so many sort of seams, the straight lines, it's going to be so easy if you just want to do straight lines or a cross hatch. Really easy to do. Or go to town with your quilting.
Definitely.
You're holding on to both of the threads there to start you off.
Yes.
Go on. Why did you do that?
I do that because very often when you start sewing, your bottom bobbin can get chewed up.
Ah, is that when you get that little sort of ruche at the start? Yeah, that's happened to me quite a lot. And somebody said to me to do a starter bit of fabric at the start and then run onto that one, and that will help. I've not seen this trick though.
Okay, yeah, I've just got into the habit of doing that ever since I started. And it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, this is a fantastic machine, but it doesn't seem to matter how fantastic a machine. It does sometimes happen. But yes, I'll do it on the next bit. A little scrap of fabric. I usually call it my mule or my donkey.
Okay.
And I do advise my students to always have that, because then you don't have to think about holding your threads. You just automatically run over a piece of fabric. And what that will do is the same thing as holding. It just keeps those threads tight so that it doesn't bunch up underneath. Yeah, because that's when I first started using a sewing machine, and that, sorry, that happened all the time. So frustrating. It's like, oh, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, same.
And the person who taught me how to quilt just said that to me, like, just hold your threads every time, and I just got into the habit. I've never had a problem since. One thing I was going to say, and something I do really like about the sewing quarter kits, is even though you've got all the fabrics and you've got basically the quilt design and the recipe of how to make it exactly like the picture if you want, there is room to add your own flair if you want to.
There is.
So you can change the fabric choices up a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of our designers, they do a lot of sort of, right now you can go and have a bit of a play, and you can, once you've done it once, you can then be a bit more confident and think, right, actually I'm going to do it differently this time.
Yeah, do it differently. One thing I was tempted to do actually on this quilt is reverse these blocks so that the dark was along the edge.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
that would be another different feel again.
Yeah.
I do love having that border though. It works really, really well, doesn't it?
It does look really nice. So you can see how quickly this is actually going together.
Yeah. And there's only 9 big blocks, like you said. So most of the time it's going to be in your cutting and your organising, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, just getting that bit done. And actually that took me an evening.
Yeah.
I tend to do a lot of things while I'm watching telly. So, yeah, I cut it all out while watching a couple of Netflix movies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Anything any good? Have you watched any good movies?
Oh, yes. It was. I watched a couple. I watched Swimming with Men, which was a little bit offbeat. It was kind of funny. But then the other one I watched was Happy Sad One.
Yeah.
It's called About Time.
Oh, is that?
With Big
Nye. Is that the one with that girl who's in The Notebook?
Oh, yes.
Kirsty.
Rachel
Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a
really
happy sad. Oh
yeah.
It was really nice. At first I thought I was going to recommend it to my daughter, but she doesn't like sad ones at all. So I'm like, okay, no. It is, but it is a happy sad. It's not a sad one.
Yeah, it is a good film.
That was a good film. Yeah, so that was my New Year's Eve. I made it up to about 11:30.
Oh, yeah, well, you made it later than me. So even though this fabric is
a seersucker.
what do we call it?
Seersucker.
Seersucker.
It's a fabric that you see a lot of summer clothes being made out, summer men's shirts and little girls' dresses or ladies' dresses. Yeah. Just because it has that feel, it's really nice, lightweight. Yeah. It's 100% cotton, but this has a really nice feel to it.
But sewing it along with, you know, your quilting weight, it's still absolutely fine.
Yeah, it just adds a really nice scrappy texture to it as well. And on the red one, there's a couple that are, like you said, like Liberty prints. Which are also a little bit finer, so a little bit more like Tanalawn. So this one and this one were, and you can feel the difference. They feel really soft and silky.
Yeah, they are lovely.
Yeah. So it's just when you're sewing, you just be aware, you know, and when you get your bundle, like, oh, this is a bit different. Yeah. But it still works really well.
A few different textures there, and especially with the cave like batik ones as well.
It's different.
So for telly purposes, we're not doing it right now, but at each point you would then press them.
Yes.
Okay.
Press them out. It makes it a lot easier. I mean, if you want to be quick and cheaty, you can. Yeah. Just finger press your seams right here, and then press it all out at the end. Right. But if you want to be properly accurate, and if it's an heirloom quilt, you would want to do that. You would want to press at each point. I'm just trying to keep that as a dark. There we go.
Yeah, I do love the blue colourway.
Yeah.
I'm undecided. Yeah, I think the pink looks really nice as well.
They're both really, really nice. It just depends if you want a cool or a warm, really. Once I got this, the last thing we can show is you don't necessarily need to, but if you want to if you need to square them up at the end, because they are bigger blocks, you will need a bigger ruler. So most people have a square ruler that's about 12.5 inches, because most quilt blocks tend to be 12 inches finished. So you'd need to trim it to 12.5 inches. Because of this one is bigger, you'd need a bigger square ruler if you wanted to do that.
We have got those big creative grids. There it is, the non-slip square. It's 20 inches by 20, so this is going to be big enough.
Yes, that's going to be plenty big enough.
There it is. Is this the 20.5 one? I don't think it is. Is it? 16.
Is it 16?
I think this is the 16-inch one.
Oh, okay.
But the graphics are in for the 20.5 and the 20.5, so you'll get the 20.5 one. We have got the 20.5 one in the next hour, just so you know.
Yeah. We can blame Chris for that.
Yeah, blame Chris. We've blamed Chris for a lot.
But it does come up quite nicely square, to be honest with you, especially if you use that scant 1/4 inch. And even if you find that you don't manage to do that, and they are ever so slightly smaller, your blocks come out ever so slightly smaller than they should be. As long as they're all the same.
It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, exactly. You don't need to panic or worry about that.
Is that the reverse of it? Oh yes, it is. Because I was thinking all that together. So
yes.
Do you know? How do you know which way is the right way, or the wrong way?
You just choose.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if you can't see it. Then it doesn't matter.
No, actually, you can see I've mixed them up. So I don't know if you can see it very well, but on the white bits there are some dots, a little bit of markings, and then on the other side it's completely plain. It was the same on the red, so you can see there's some little dots inside the white on the calf one here.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you've put any of they're all dots.
I've consistently kept it
the dot way, whereas that way's cleaner.
Yes.
But
it's choice.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the other thing you can do, if you are making scrappy, for instance, you find this one a little bit bright, you can actually use the opposite side.
Oh.
So, or any fabric. If you find one side is a little bit dark or bright for what you need, and you want it to be quite a bit paler, you can just use the reverse. There's no rule that says you can't.
Yeah.
So if you need it, slightly different.
There you go, Nice little tip. Yeah, because that looks quite nice just that side, doesn't it?
Yeah.
However you want it. We've got about 10 minutes.
Okay. Definitely get this finished.
Oh, I'm going to try that tip of just holding the threads.
Oh, Oh yeah, I forgot to do my mule. I don't tend to do it. I tend to recommend it to my students. It's a case of do as I say. But just because I've gotten into the habit of holding it, and a lot of people who have start on the machine, it takes a while to get into that habit. The benefit of having a little donkey, I call it donkey or mule, is that you can also check your stitches on it as well.
Right.
So you check it's the
Check
right length.
for what? Oh, for the right length.
Right length, right tension.
So what sort of stitch length are you? 1.8?
1.8,
Yeah.
and it will differ. So on my machine at home, it tends to be about 2.5.
Yeah.
Because they are a little bit different. But if you are machine quilting, obviously you'll need your walking foot to make it easier, and also increase your stitch length when you're machine quilting.
Right.
Because it will help it go through. You don't need the stitches to be nearly as small as when you're piecing. So I usually increase it to about 3 or 3.5
Oh, right, okay.
on the machine. But again, give it a little test, but they do need to be bigger when you're machine quilting.
It can tend to sort of like bunch up a bit more when you put all the layers otherwise.
Yeah.
We've literally got 2 more strips and then another
Yep.
block is done.
Yes, it's that quick. Okay.
So hang on. Which is the one with the 2 borders either side? Have we done one wrong?
No.
No? 2 borders either side there.
Yeah, that one.
That's your next one.
Yeah.
And having them sort of on a laid out like that as well, it's quite easy to know then
Yes.
which one is going to be next.
Because what I did with the red one is I actually made my center one first, which is what it says in the instructions, and then to make my 4 to go around the outside, just to check that things weren't going to be too close together, I did actually just lay the center squares out and then just strips around it, just to see, get a little visual, take a picture. Does that work? And there's not really a rule to say you shouldn't have them close together. It's totally just personal preference. I always say there's no right or wrong way, only the way that works for you.
Yeah, exactly, because we all see it differently as well, don't we? Some things that you'll be like, oh no, I don't like that next to that.
Yeah.
I just don't say. Speed's tele sewing now. I'm so pleased that there's a lot of new buyers who are getting involved. I think this would be a really great first purchase, project. Really lovely.
Definitely, definitely.
And you don't need to, like we said right back at the start, you don't need to worry about trying to match different shades and match different fabrics. And the free gift as well. Brilliant free gift today.
Yep, last one. So these are my 2 borders. That's my last bit. Last strip, and the whole block is done.
See how quick is that?
Yep.
So quick and easy. It is just more about the planning of the lights and darks.
It is. Like I said, if you've got all the strips organised and you can just dip into them. Because I do have to admit, I did take over my dining room table for a couple of days.
Yeah, I've had to pack away. Now all our Christmas decorations are down.
Yes.
I can have my sewing table back. It's kind of been all set for Christmas over Christmas. I'm like, oh, I have to put my sewing stuff away.
Yeah, my mum did that. She put a Christmas tree on top of her sewing cabinet, and yeah, she's like, oh, thank goodness I can put the tree down, get my sewing cabinet back. There we go. All done. And if we have that the big ruler, let's see if it needs trimming. But you can see it shouldn't need all your edges.
So how do you measure up to check that then it's, what does it need to be?
Let me double check.
Is it 12.5? No, bigger.
Looks like it might be 17. I think it is 17. It doesn't necessarily tell you a block size. It tells you a finished size.
But as long as, like you said, they're all consistent.
Yeah, consistent. So the biggest strip that you do, I think, is 18.5 inches. So it should be 18. But I'm 17. Maybe the center block is different. That's middle block. It's the center block. Yeah, 17. Biggest one is 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're pretty bang on there, aren't you?
Yeah. And if it isn't pressed, so if I had pressed that, it would also be more. But if you needed to, you would need a bigger. If you needed to trim it,
okay,
you'd need a bigger ruler, because mostly they come to about 12.5 inches.
Right.
So that's where a bigger one.
It's worth having like the larger ones. Carol is messaging, morning ladies, my mum taught me to hold the threads when starting off, and I still do to this day.
Yeah.
Like you said, if you just got that, something that you've learned from the start, you keep at it.
Yeah, you
that
do.
works really well.
Yeah.
Should we hold the block up next to it?
Yes.
So
that would be
this
the
is your
centre
central block.
And this is doing it completely scrappy.
What do you think? Completely scrappy, or are you going to go with the different the colours where you follow, so you would keep this fabric going around here?
Yeah.
I do like the scrappy. I think it works well, and then I think I would find it a little bit easier to do.
Yeah, there's less planning.
Of cutting which strips, what length they all need to be, and make sure it's right. Yeah, less planning. It looks lovely, doesn't it? So any other tips with doing your scrappy binding then? We've got a couple of minutes. So
okay. So I used to always do bias binding, but I've kind of gotten into doing straight binding. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that's why when I've cut all the strips, I've cut them. Now I've got my binding 3 inches. Yes.
So this is what you cut at the start of all of the fabrics. You cut 3 inches of the whole.
Yeah, I got 2 from the centre ones. This is my centre colour. So the solid I've always used for the centre one. Then I've just cut 3 inch, and what I'll do is sew them all together. So
could you change that round if you wanted?
You could.
So if you wanted one of the pattern fabrics,
oh yeah, of course,
you can have that as a change block. Yeah,
definitely.
That's the great thing about having half a metre of everything.
Yeah, you can definitely. The only reason I've done the solid ones because there's only one real solid, and it's traditionally they tend to be a solid, but it doesn't have to be. You could do a flowery middle. I mean, that'd be really nice with a
or with cutting,
or with a calf centre.
Yeah,
that would be really nice. So yeah, so I'd sew my strips together, and then when I add the binding, I fold it in half. Now, if I'm machine binding it all together, which I do on these, I will actually sew it to the back first. Yes, and then flip it over. Well, sew it to the back, press it out because it helps, and then flip it over and sew it down.
But you just sew the strips together to get the scrappy sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So.
Yeah, and you can cut them. I've just left them one width length. Yeah. But you can cut them smaller if you want it to be even more scrappier than it is. I mean, I've just done. So you've got quite a lot of length of the same fabric. But if you wanted to cut them in half and then sew them together again, you've still got enough. Yeah. So you'd have it a little bit more scrappier than it is. Lovely.
And then quilting, as you said, we did mention it earlier on. You've used a long arm quilter, but because it is a big quilt.
It is a big quilt.
Will you be all right to still do it on a domestic machine?
You might. It depends on the machine.
Okay.
Because obviously you have to get to the centre part, you have to roll it all up to get it under your arm. So if you've got a quite big machine with a big throat size,
space,
then it's not so bad. The other thing you can do, especially if you're a beginner, you can tie them. There's no thing that says you have to quilt. Right. So what I would do is in each corner, so here and maybe here, just layer it up. Yeah. And then you just take a big wool needle with a sharp point. Right. And either tapestry thread or wool, and you just go straight down, up, maybe one more time, and you just tie it off. Oh, there you go. Just a regular knot. And what I do is you knot it one way and then you knot it the other, if that makes sense. Yeah. You fold it over so that it locks in. So yeah. Oh, there you go. There's another option and if you are, as I know a lot of new buyers getting involved. Any other last minute tips? Anything else you wanted to mention, or you all? I think that's it. Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. We'll see you in an hour, won't we? With the baby quilt, which is really cute. Oh, it is another great beginner one. Yeah. Brilliant. All right. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. We'll see you in an hour. Okay, let's go and have a quick recap. 2 bundles to choose from today, red or blue. At the moment, the red's in the lead. It is lovely. The one that Emma's made looks gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Such a great job on that. Very, very lucky, aren't we, to have such quilting machines that
bring out some brilliant, brilliant quilts. I love this. So, these two quite Liberty-esque ones. The pinks. These are your lights. Just section them into your lights and dots. Just remember to read all the instructions and watch back the show because we've just finished the whole of that centre block. The gingham. Your K facet, batik, florals. It is gorgeous, isn't it? And working with these sort of different textures as well is going to be lovely. It's going to give you a really lovely, scruffy sort of patchworky feel. And even though, as Emma was saying, you've got the traditional log cabin, but it's actually changed the look completely, having this amazing sort of star effect. Using the darks and the light fabrics in conjunction just means that you get this really sort of optical effect. Love it. Your threads, you also get your full instructions as well. The blue bundle, 1/2 metre of all of the fabrics. When you're starting, you don't need to worry about, okay, which one's which one am I supposed to be using for my centre blocks or my bindings, or if it's 1.5 metres, sometimes we do bundles where it's 1 metre and 1.5 metres of this and 2 metres of this. Everything's 1/2 metre, so it's made simple. You can choose however you want. You've got some of these lovely brights, the florals, the stripe, linen texture. You've got the cave, floral, the linen texture. Your solid, you've got your 2 threads and your full instructions, £87.99. Welcome back, Baby Quilt. Oh, we're so excited about this one. This is such a lovely first project as well. We had a lot of new buyers who are getting involved today. In fact, if it is your first purchase, we've got a brilliant new buyer offer. And new buyers, honestly, this is a great first quilt. New buyers, welcome to the Soap Quarter family. It's lovely to have you. A gift worth nearly £30. You get 2 metres of randomly selected fabric and a sewing kit worth nearly £30 for every new customer. No minimum spend required. You don't need to add a certain code at checkout. It will just be sent with you. Terms and conditions are on the website, but I absolutely adore this. One, I think it's quite unisex actually. Quite often we've done ones that I would say are more girly or more for boys, whereas this is lovely, really nice and unisex. So maybe you don't know the sex of the baby, or you've got a child coming into the family in 2019. Then this would be perfect. This would be perfect. I'm going to a baby shower at the end of January and you think, oh, I need to do something that's, you want to take a present. What an amazing gift would this be? My first quilt was using panels quite similar to this, and it is a brilliant first project because it's quick, straight sewing, nice and easy, and you get that sense of achievement very, very quickly. So I can't recommend this sort of style enough. And then if you do want to go a bit fancy with your quilting, you can use the heart template to echo. You can embroider someone's name on it. I mean, you could then embellish away as you wish. So if you do want to make it more complex, you could do some more applique on there. You could do whatever you want. But I do love this fabric. I think it's so, so adorable. In the instructions, you also have got the instructions to make the cushions, because I think with the bundle you're going to have some fabric left over. You might just need to add the fabric. I think we decided that you might just need to add the fabric for the face from your stash. Or no, but that's for your binding, 1/2 metre for your binding. So I think you're probably going to need to add some from your stash for your faces, which is fine. We can show you some if you need some. So in the 1/2 metre of everything and a panel. There's the panel. Baby. The numbers. Oh, it's just lovely, isn't it? It's adorable. The lovely little icons. Great to do a little bit of fussy cutting, actually. Baba baby. I even love that, yes, you've got your panels that you're going to cut up, but even behind the panels, that sort of lovely grey stripe. Eat. Sheep. Eat, sleep and be cosy. No, no, you shouldn't say eat sheep actually, no. Oh, okay, so let's have a look at the rest of the fabric. So you get the panel, you also get 1/2 metre of everything else. So you have 1/2 metre of the grey, you also have 1/2 metre of the aqua, and then this one, which is lovely as well, all the numbers, all of the numbers from 1 to 9, all of the numbers. This one, oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Again, you could do some lovely sort of strips like we have along the bottom of the quilt of that number with the sheep. Sheepses. Did you know Lucy Brennan scared of sheep? Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm not, she apparently does have quite a bad phobia of sheep. I've never known anyone to have a phobia of sheep. I don't like, I'm quite scared of birds. Not good with birds. I'm getting a lot better. It's more that it's rubbed off from my mum. My mum's awful, but I'm a lot better. It's because they don't quite fly. I feel like they fly and then don't lift themselves up and, oh, I don't know. Oh. Oh no, I don't mind if they're up in the air and flying or if they're away from me, but it's when they're trying to fly. Small pigeons. Okay. Full kit, so you have 3 metres of fabric plus the panel and your thread and your instructions. Plus the instructions to make the cushions as well. I love that. It's really nice to have that added something. There's the whole of the quilt. If you want the panel by itself, then we can offer it to you by itself. But it is limited. It is limited. So the panel by itself is just £8.99. Oh, this is going to sell out though. If you do want just the panel by itself. That's so cute, isn't it? Look at the little sheep looking up at the stars. Oh. Okay, I think it might be an early sellout on that panel. I know it's quite limited and lots of people have got it in their basket, so if you've got it in your basket, please be careful. In fact, there's single figures left now. Single figures on the panel on its own. Right. Let's go across. Let's go across. I'm going to take the quilt across with me as well. Do I need the instructions? I'm taking everything. Hello, hello, hello. Hi. I love this. It's so cute,
isn't it?
Really
nice.
And the
really
little
nice.
cushions as well. That's a nice little added bonus. To have the instructions of how to do the the cushions. But it's really sweet, isn't it? And I think it's quite unisex as well.
Oh, definitely. And I do like, even if you know the gender, I do like a unisex quilt anyway.
Right. Let me put this here. So, we said this is a nice beginner's one as well.
It is definitely, because it looks, again, it's one of those that looks complicated, but because it's the panels, it's quite simple. And then with the added fabrics in there, they go together so nicely.
But even if really you are somebody that's done a lot of quilting, sometimes we just need a quick project.
Yes, you do. Yeah, especially when it comes to babies. Even if you know ahead of time, quite a long time, I've talked to so many quilters that, you know, like, oh no, there's a baby due this week. And I need to get a quilt done. Even though they've known for months.
Yeah, exactly. It's always, everything's last minute.
Yeah.
So this is going to be handy, really handy for that. So where do we start? Do you start by cutting out everything again? Do you cut?
Yeah, I start by cutting out everything. It's quite simple. So the most cutting you've got to do is on the sashing, which is the blue part, which I've already pre-cut those. So I thought I would leave the border fabric to show how to cut some strips. Again, just because most quilters, if you're familiar, will know, but if you've never done it before,
of course, exactly. This is a brand new project to you. If this is a first time, so you get the kit, you get half a metre of your fabrics and your panel. So it will come to you like this with the selvage still on. It will just be cut off the bolt. So you might need to square it off. Yes.
So I'm going to show you how to cut the width of fabric, and let me double check the width of the borders. Sorry. I'm not sure. Maybe you can
look. Yeah, I'll have a look.
It's on the second page, I think, while I'm doing this bit.
Okay. Cutting out.
So for all the strips, you'll cut width of fabric. So in order to square your fabric up, to cut the width.
4.5 inches.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just folding it in half, and I'm lining up my selvage edges. And I'm just going to, you can see when you cut it off the bolt, it doesn't always, it's not exactly always square, and it's just because of the way it's folded on the bolt, especially if you get towards the middle of the bolt, the more skewed the fabric a little bit is.
So this
it's not,
is a bit skew-iff.
yeah, but it's not going to be a major issue. The only thing is you want to make sure that your fabric is squared. So you might find if you've laid it out and it's all squared, that your edges are a little bit off, which is not a problem, but don't be alarmed.
Would you press it all first?
Yes.
This was a good press.
Yeah, this was pressed at one point, but yeah. So give it a real good press.
And do you give it a press with steam or no steam? Or?
I tend to use steam. Yeah, just because it's quicker.
Yeah.
When you're pressing your seams after you've quilted, again, it's a matter of preference. Some people like to use it with steam, some don't.
Okay.
So I tend to use steam just because I know it's giving it a good press.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of quilters that swear by just pressing it without any steam.
Right, okay.
Again, it's no right or wrong way, just the way it works for you. So once I've lined it all up, I've got it all squared off, then I'll fold it again so it's in quarters. And the first thing I'll do is I'll cut one line just to square off the end. And because you might have some edges that are a little bit uneven, you just want to make sure that when you're lining it up on your mat, that all those uneven edges are over one of your lines. So you won't want to cut it and then open it up and realize, oh, I didn't quite cut it quite enough.
Do you find it helps to have like a sort of, as one of your starter rule is to have a long...
Yes.
A long rectangle to start with.
Yes, yes. This would be your most basic, and even actually, if you only wanted to buy one ruler, I would recommend a 6 or 6.5 inch by 24.
Yeah.
Which is really multi-purpose.
Okay.
Because then it helps you to square off anything that's under 6 inches, or 6 inches and less. This is a nice, manageable size. If you're doing a lot of strips, this is a nice little, or if your space is limited, this is a nice small one, just for cutting strips.
Paul's going to put in the graphics though for the 24, the 6.5 by 24. Oh no, wrong one. We'll find it. We'll find it.
And the other thing that actually I've come to love creative grid ones because I use a different brand at home.
Right.
Just because that's what I started with.
Yeah.
And that's what I've stuck to. But since I've been using these when I've been coming here, the grip, it's so nice.
And it makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, so I'm definitely sold on the creative grid ones now.
Honestly, they are brilliant. I know we reiterate so much, we bang on about that non-slip grip, but it
really,
you don't know unless you try. If you know, you know.
Yes. Yeah, because on mine it doesn't have any of that, and often at times you'll get halfway and it will just
slip slightly.
Yeah.
And then that fabric, that cut's gone. Then you can waste a lot of fabric doing it.
You can, or your quilt can be the accuracy can really be affected. I'm just going to give that another one because I'm not sure if that went all the way through. There we go. So that's my border strip, and you'll need 3 more to go around the edge. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Don't need to be a mathematician to work that out. No. And you will have a little bit of this left as well, so it's something that you could use. Oh, nice for your stash, or you can carry on doing a bit more applique hearts. Yes, definitely. As much as you want. Because that's it. Victoria's sort of giving you the guidelines of how to do everything and different ideas of what you can add in there. But then you can carry on embellishing as you wish. Definitely. You could actually on it. All these little squares in the middle part are all individually cut and fussy cut from your other fabrics. Yeah. So you could actually just use one of those. Yeah. Change it with a border one. Yeah, good idea. Yeah. So once I've done that, most of the rest is all strips. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Then you subcut your strips into pieces that will fit for the sashing in between your blocks. Yeah. So if anyone that doesn't know what sashing is what attaches the blocks together. So yes. Sometimes you have sashing and sometimes the blocks are sort of pieced together, but this one is the blue on this one. Yeah. It's any piece of strip of fabric that goes in between your blocks. So your border is always your border. It's a very outer bit. Anything that looks like a border that's inside your blocks is called sashing. Okay. Yep. And then you get posts as well. Posts? I've not heard that one. Okay. So if you, if I can show, can you pass me that? Oops. So a post is where you've got sashing, but then you've got a square here in the middle.
Right.
So you'd have a piece of sashing that goes in between your blocks, and then where they join in the middle, there's a separate square, usually out of a different colour.
That's called a post.
Called a post. Yep.
There you go. Learn something new every day. There we are. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, I like sashing and posts. Especially if you've got a quilt that is all the same block.
Yeah.
It just differentiates. It just adds a little bit of definition to all your blocks. So your next step is to cut your panel. And they're 11.5 by 15.5 inches. So I'm going to use my big ruler for that, just so I can get it nice and square. Let me use it like this, so I know. Perfect. So because it's going to be 15.5, that's going to be from here to here.
Right.
Using your big ruler helps you sort of center
your
picture in the middle. So you're actually going to cut into your panel a little bit. So I'm just going to go up this way. And then keeping holding that, going this way. I'm just going to use
reposition, or
yes,
are you just using scissors?
I'm just going to use my scissors just to separate these two blocks. Just that I've got a smaller piece of fabric to work with.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, and I know that I'm going to be cutting into the white of my block, so I know that I've got plenty left over there. So just be careful when you are cutting them, because you could actually subdivide all of them first with a pair of scissors and then trim them down.
Yeah.
Just measure one first, just to make sure that you know where you're cutting. You don't want to leave yourself short. It's going to be 15.5 inches this way.
Don't you find even with these creative braids, like you can get that right on? There's so many points, isn't there?
There are, yes.
The 1/8 of an inch.
Which makes it really nice, yeah. But using a big one like this, it really helps to ensure that it's going to be square. You could do it with a smaller ruler, but then you do have to be very careful when you're cutting your corners that you don't get them a little bit skewed. I mean, it will still kind of work, but if you want to be really accurate, a big one is really nice to have. This needs to be 11.5. There we go. And actually it's pretty much good because I measured it up from the bottom already.
It's quite a nice size though if you're starting quilting to be able to, you know, like we said, this one again, beginner, but if you wanted to try quilting as well, to be more manageable on your machine, then this is probably going to be an easier one to start with,
definitely.
isn't it?
And also because you've already got a pattern, if you wanted to either hand quilt or machine quilt, you've already got a pattern that you can follow to go over it. One thing I was going to say, the pattern is also forgiving. So if you did make a mistake cutting your panels for any reason, or it ends up being shorter, you can trim them down a little bit smaller.
Right.
But you just need to adjust your sashing once you've attached your sashing, just to trim it down.
Right.
It'll affect the overall size of the quilt a little bit, but it's not the end of the world if you happen to cut this ½ an inch shorter one way or the other. Yeah, it'll still be okay. So don't panic. So that's our panels. And then the other thing I was going to show is strip piecing the squares in the middle.
Okay.
So I have fussy cut these squares.
Yes, I love that. So fussy cutting is to, you know, to get that icon and centre and
and I can show that if you like.
That you like.
I've got some extra. You do have actually. I've already cut the fabric for the sheep cushion. Yeah. And I still have all of this left.
Oh wow.
So I've got plenty to make the lamb as well.
Oh, brilliant! So you could do the quilt, the lamb, the sheep and the lamb probably with the fabric bundle.
Yeah, and there's enough to actually make the face for the lamb out of your grey binding. So what's left over from the grey binding, you do need to add a little bit of grey or something from your stash to make the sheep face.
Okay, but you'll have enough to do one of the faces.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
definitely, and the legs, for sure.
Nice and easy, this one as well, isn't it?
It is.
Because it's so easy to sort of just draw and make that shape yourself and then stuff it. You just need to add some stuffing. So we're going to do a bit of fussy cutting.
Yeah. Let's do it on here.
And the great thing is, in the bundle, you've obviously got enough fabric to do that.
To do it,
sometimes you think, oh, fussy cutting, it is a bit more wasteful.
It is.
But if you've got enough fabric.
Yeah, and these big sheep are really nice.
Yeah.
Even if you don't fussy cut and you just cut them as usual, you actually, they're big enough and they're close enough together that you'll still get some sheeps in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Or sheep.
You're like my mum. My mum says sheep. And we got into such a debate that she was so stubborn. She was adamant. She was like, no, look at all the sheeps. Sheeps. And sheeps is, I'm like, no, sheep. It's sheep.
Yeah, my granddaughter, that's one of her words that she's been saying is sheep.
Oh,
Yeah.
How old's your granddaughter?
She'll be 2 in February.
Oh, amazing. And
Yeah.
she's like sheep already. That's
Yeah.
so cute. What's her name?
Alice.
Alice.
Yeah, but we call her Ikolhebu.
Ikolhebu.
Yeah, that's her nickname.
That's cute.
So I want to fussy cut around this grey sheep.
Okay.
So but you could fussy cut around this one. Depends what you want. So I'm just going to lay my ruler down so that sheep is central within a 3.5 inch section. And this ruler is exactly 3.5 inches wide. So
Brilliant.
I'm going to just position that grey sheep so that he's in the middle of my ruler, and then shift it so that it's in the middle of 3.5 inches up and down as well.
The closest that you can start from the edge is probably best, isn't it? You
Yes.
don't want to just say, right, actually I'm going to go for that sheep.
Right in the middle,
of
yeah.
the fabric.
You
Carol?
can, but yeah, helps to prevent some waste.
Oh, we've had a nice message from somebody on the web. Just received 2 meters of fabric. I'm delighted with it. Thank
Ooh.
you. Different colour choices from my usual and therefore very motivating. Great
Yes.
programme. Thank you. That's it.
love
Sometimes
that.
we're all... I'm like that with clothes. This is very unlike me. Normally I'm very dark. I'll always pick up... I'll have in my mind I'm going to buy something that's colourful and
Yeah.
I'll still end up with something grey or dark. So sometimes it's nice, isn't it, when you get something that's green, think, right, I'm going to try something different.
Yes, and that, especially as a quilter, especially if you've been doing it for a little while,
Yeah.
it's nice to have a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
So I just did the same thing, positioning my grey sheep in the middle of my ruler, top and bottom, and there. So now I've got a nice little block with...
Perfect. With the sheep perfectly central. Lovely.
Yeah. So that's all you do.
Okay.
So once you've got, you need 8 of your squares for the centre.
This is for that centre block, yeah.
But you're only going to sew a sashing piece to 7 of them because you're going to have the last one is going to be attached to your outside border.
Right.
So you only need to do 7, but you can do them all at the same time.
So a bit of chain piecing.
Yes, I love a bit of chain piecing.
This is good to sort of start off, learn. Even if you're a beginner, if you get used to it, if you can do it from the start, then it's going to save you a lot of time.
Definitely, and you can chain the log cabin quilt that we did earlier.
Yeah.
If you're organised with your piles of strips, you can chain piece all of your blocks at the same time as well, especially when you get to the border part, because they're all pretty similar.
Oh, what's it saying? Computer says no.
No, it's good.
It's fine.
Just want to double check because I don't want to break a needle.
If you have got a 1/4 inch foot, one with this little lip on the end, it does really help as a beginner. It does.
I love mine. So I've just sewn my first bit, and I've just sewn it so it's just past the needle, and I can just go in and start my next one.
When
right
you're looking
after.
at solids, does it matter? It doesn't matter right sides together or anything. They're all
No, yeah, it's
good.
pretty much the same, which is good.
Nice and easy.
It definitely is. Chain piecing also makes it nice and easy to when you're pressing. So after I've sewn them all together, I won't snip them yet until I've pressed them,
Right.
because then you can move it all together in one big chain over to your pressing mat or your ironing board.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
That's it. I do like to set up my station. If I start doing something, I want to have my ironing board, everything all there ready to go, so I don't have to keep getting up.
And this top will go together really quickly. I'm sure you can get it done in the morning or an afternoon, just because of the nice big panels.
Oh, exactly. This is
Yeah.
something you can do really, really quickly. Nice big panels, straight sewing, nothing too complicated. All of it's there ready to go.
The only thing you have to be careful of when you're doing this bit is that make sure that your fussy cut squares are facing the correct way.
Okay.
So when I'm attaching this sashing, I'm attaching it to the same side every time. You want to be consistent when you're doing that. Because otherwise you might end up with 2 squares with a sashing on the same side, and that wouldn't work. And that's my extra one.
And you could do as much or as little fussy cutting as you want.
Yes.
Did you see on this one, they've got 1, 2, 3 fussy cut at the start, then a couple of sheep, and it goes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I mean, you've got enough fabric that you could go along and do all the numbers. There's 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
7, 8, 9. It's quite nice, isn't it?
It is very nice. Right, now I just need to press these bits.
Let's get the iron. Right. Gonna have to move this forward slightly.
Okay.
Oh, it's very busy today. We are busy, busy, busy.
So you can see I've got all of my chain stitched pieces together, so I can just move them. It also keeps you from losing any. So I'm just going to press.
Right, so you press them first to set the seam
Yes.
the right way. Okay,
And
that
when
way.
I'm pressing them, I always place the dark side up,
Yeah.
because I know that once I've pressed my seam in place, when I fold it over, my seam allowance will automatically be towards the dark side.
That's a good way of looking at it,
Yeah.
actually.
Again, it's those little things that I do without thinking about it. If you do it consistently the same way, I like...
Second nature, yeah.
Yeah, and I also like thinking the least amount possible. Because when I'm quilting, it's like my brain can just switch off because I'm on autopilot and then think about other things. Or...
Exactly. Well, this is your this is a hobby. This is something that's quite therapeutic when you can switch off a bit.
I usually listen to podcasts.
Oh right.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that do that actually.
Then you just snip in between, and they're all done.
Are you done with the iron for a little bit? I'm just going to
Yes,
put it here. I won't turn
thank
it
you.
off if you need it, but there.
And then what you can do, because you're going to have them all together like this, arrange them how you'd like. Again, you've got the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. I didn't do such a great job of.
Oh no, but this is it. You don't actually need to. Like you said, if you fussy cut, or if you don't fussy cut, because of the size of the prints, it works anyway, doesn't it? You don't need to stress yourself over doing that.
Exactly. So you can put your sheep how you want. Then it's just a matter of, so I lay them down like this.
Put them into pairs first.
Yes, and I always lay them so that I know that my right-hand side is my seam. So whenever I lay my blocks down, or my pairs of blocks, I always lay them like that. So that I know whenever I pick them up or I'm got distracted and I go back to it, I know this is my seam side. What I also do sometimes is I'll put a little pin on the side where I'm going to be sewing, or the seam side, just in order to keep track.
You are very organised, aren't you? The scientist in you.
It's more to do with I'm very scatty.
Okay.
So it's
put all of the all of the everything in your way, in your favour, to make sure that you do it right.
Yes. I still have to seam rip quite a bit, but it helps to eliminate that, minimise that. I find I learn the most from my mistakes.
Oh, absolutely. That's life, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you. but I do like consistency. And
So do you teach many complete beginners?
yes.
Yeah.
Which is, I find the most fun.
Yeah.
I've been teaching a lady who actually never sewed anything before. She just has the sewing machine she uses, you know those little pink, like John Lewis.
Right,
like,
okay,
almost,
yeah.
but it works so well.
Yeah.
That's all she's got, and she's been making, we've been doing a block of the month with her.
Yeah.
And it's just so rewarding to see, oh my God, I made that.
Yeah, oh,
yeah,
exactly.
it is really nice. I really love to teach the beginners. Now for pressing these, it doesn't really matter too much because you won't be matching any corners up.
And you find, I bet you don't really see through it, not to worry too much about the dark side of going through. You probably wouldn't see it too much anymore, will you?
And that one goes there. Sometimes when you're doing, you can't always press to the dark side anyway, so depending on the block that you're piecing, if it gets really complicated, there's going to be times that you're going to have to press the other way.
Okay, so it's a loose sort of general rule.
It is.
Go for that, but
yeah.
You might need to bend the rules a bit.
Yes. I always recommend pressing to make your seams nest, if that makes sense. So if you've got,
one way
if you've got points to match or corners to match, pressing so that your seams are going either direction so that they nest nicely is going to be so much more useful. And you can see how quick this is going together.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is the middle section.
That's this part across the centre here.
Yeah.
So once you've done your 4 big panels,
Yeah.
you've then got just your 2 strips, your borders.
You're sashing put together.
Yeah, your sashing,
Yeah.
your bit of a plique. I do love that then you can go to town if you do love quilting. If you are more advanced and you want to show off your quilting, then this is a really nice one to do it with as well. But even if, in fact, when Victoria showed me this, it isn't, I thought, oh, hearts, that must be really difficult to do, but she gives you the template as well, so you could actually just draw it on and go around yourself.
What I'll often do is I'll use a friction pen. Have you? Yeah.
I love friction pens,
Yes. The only caveat I say is because on some fabrics they can leave a little bit of a ghost.
Yeah,
a little
you
white
need to
mark.
test it first,
Definitely,
don't you?
yes. Yeah. So that's my centerpiece, and then I'd add a piece of sashing on either side of that. Let's see if I get the right one. This one. There we go. Now when I'm adding long strips or pieces like that or borders, I will definitely pin. So what I would do is I'd press all this out so it's nice and pressed, and then pin every sort of 3 inches or so.
Right.
And what that does is because when you put it through, invariably one or the other will stretch a little bit. So if you don't pin it, especially with your borders, you can end up with those wavy borders.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so that's the key to preventing the wavy borders or the wavy sashing. Something else I was going to say. Oh yes, the other trick you can do, especially if you've got a very long one, and I actually learned this from a lady who does upholstery, because they do it for curtains.
Oh, right, okay.
On your borders, so if you're going to sew this long border on, you would actually start sewing from the middle and go to one end, and then go the other way.
Right.
Yeah.
So what would that prevent? If you start this side and go all the way down?
It helps to prevent the stretching a little bit. So if you started here and went all the way down, sometimes it can stretch a little bit or it can go off a little bit. But that just helps to prevent that so that the fabric is nice and even both sides. Yeah.
We're going to have a quick recap before you move on to anything else. What do you want? Are you going to sew that on, or are we going to move on to the next bit?
Let me do another block.
Yeah.
We'll sew 2 blocks together.
Yeah.
The sashing in between.
Okay then. Fab. Right. Whilst you sort of prepare that, we will come across and have a look at the kit. Lots of new buyers. Welcome to the family. You're going to love it. My first quilt was a panel quilt, and honestly, you'll worry about other things that you don't want the added stress of maybe doing a lot of piecing. So this is great to do, you know, your squares. You've still got to do your sashes. You're still going to practice your binding. You're still going to practice your cutting. It gives you all of the elements, but at the end of it, you can go, oh, I did it. And in fact, it took me, I was here every day for the week, and I went home and did it every afternoon, just did a couple of hours, didn't stress myself too much, did a few hours each night, and got it done in that week, and it was just such an achievement. Such an achievement. So, the kit contains 3 half-metre pre-cuts of your grey, your aqua, your spot-on, your numbered fabric, your sheep and number fabric, and your sheep fabric. You then also get your panel, which looks like this. There's your panel. You can also get the panel on its own, but the panel on its own, oh, in fact, actually, it might have gone. If you've got it in your basket, I can't guarantee it, but try and check out. If you've got it in your basket, it's definitely worth trying to check out, or if you're watching on a replay, call and ask availability, you never know. So, you also get your thread to start you off, and you get your instructions, which also include the instructions for the sheep and the lamb, which you have enough fabric in the bundle to do the quilt, the sheep and the lamb. Great value for money. You might just need to add some extra fabric for the face for one of the cushions. So you'll have enough to do the one, but you might need to add for the other, the sheep and the feet. Extra fabric. Talking about extra fabric, we've wanted to bring you a couple others from this range. So this is so cute. Maybe you wanted to do some other cushions or some bunting, or I'm trying to think of what else. I made some lovely bunting to go with Seb's quilts from that Guess How Much I Love You range, and it's just so gorgeous. This is also really nice, not for baby quilts. I really like that for my room. It's lovely, isn't it? We've also got the sheep by the half-metre. Great for fussy cutting, as you've seen. Because they're quite close together and they're nice sizes as well, you do get the repeat. So even if you're not intending to fussy cut, you're still going to see the lovely images. And they're really cute, aren't they? Look at them smiling. All different. The numbers. You could even do this. This is by the half-metre. You could do like a height measuring guide. You know, I used to have one when I was young. Height chart. Or numbers, just learning, you know, numbers. £7.49.5 It's cute, isn't it? Really like this. And this is the sheep with the numbers. Counting sheep. Counting sheep will help you sleep, apparently. It's not worked for our Tom. Never been available by the half-metre until now. For the first time, available by the half-metre. So if you love this fabric in bundles, you've now got the chance to get it by the half-metre. Sheep and numbers on aqua, £7.49.5. Then we thought, right, if you wanted to add half a metre of, this is slightly different to the one on there, but it's the linear texture. I think this would be really nice for the face and the feet. £4.99.5 by Makawa, lovely quality in ebony. Even if you just want half a metre, just to add to your stash. Okay, there's the whole kit. Let's go back over and have a look at the next part. So we're going to sew together two blocks,
panels.
Okay, yep. 2 panels.
So I've cut these, you can see, I've actually done them a little bit different. So I've included some of the grey background on them.
Yeah.
So I've cut them so that...
Because it's a lovely background as well, isn't it?
Yes,
It's not just plain. Yeah.
So I'm going to add that. Oh, the other thing I was going to say, you get these numbers on the sides of them, which you don't actually use for the quilt. So this will be on the sides of your panel. So you've got your 4 numbers, 1 to 10.
Oh, nice. So that'd just be nice little wall hangings. You could put your own little border and have them just hanging, or... Yeah.
Well, you were saying about your growth chart. I mean, you could have, for each age,
good
do
idea.
something.
Or bunting. 1, 2, 3, 4, bunting along.
Perfect.
Good
Yeah,
idea.
so that's extra. So I'm just going to, I've got my 2 panels. I've got my piece of sashing. I'm just going to include them
We've got about 15 minutes.
Oh, okay. Do you want to do this or the sheep?
We can
pillow?
do this. We'll do this, and then we'll probably have time to
do the sheep
to show
Yep.
10 minutes on the sheep as well.
Yeah, because it is really easy. It is nice, and you get it to make the lamb. You get the kit. You do have the fabric to make the sheep. You just need to add a little bit of grey or dark for your sheep face. This is actually the same as you're doing for your little squares, only you're just doing it on a bigger scale, really. And I've also changed where my panels are compared to the sample.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
Make it your own.
so you can mix and match exactly how you want it, really. So that's one side, and you would press it, probably I'd press it towards the sashing, although it doesn't matter, again, because you're not going to match any corners.
Yeah.
So just to hide that.
Have you made much for Alice?
I have. I've made one quilt.
Yeah.
So the first quilt I ever made was one for my daughter.
Okay.
And it was a kind of a late cut quilt type of thing. And so when we knew Alice was coming along, I asked her, so what sort of pattern do you want? And she had no idea. So what we ended up doing was I used exactly the same quilt pattern as for Kaylee's quilt, but different fabrics. So they're exactly the same, only
that's so nice.
the fabrics are different.
Because you do dressmaking as well, don't you?
Yes. Like you said, I've discovered jersey, which is really nice. It's a lot easier to work with.
So have you made this?
Yes.
Oh, amazing.
And the best thing about jersey is no darts.
No? Right, that's good.
Yes.
And I always think jersey, it looks so smart, but it's really comfortable.
It's so comfortable. Yes.
You look really smart, but it's actually like, feel like you're in your pyjamas.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I love it. Now you're telling my secrets.
You look very glam.
So that's how your panels go together, both exactly the same.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
And then your squares and your sashing would go just in between. And the same thing with your border. So your inner, I call it the border because it's a strip that goes all the way across.
Right.
Exactly the same. So it would be together. You'd have your blue sashing, your sheep strip, your blue sashing, panel, sashing, blocks, sashing, blocks, sashing, strip, sashing.
So with the long strips, the one with the numbers and the sheep, do they give you the measurements in the instructions? Victoria's put the measurements in the instructions of what size you need. It's just 2 strips.
Yeah.
Really nice and simple.
Yeah, exactly. And if it does quite match at the corners, because you do all these strips together first, and then you've got 2 long sashing strips on either side, if you find that your edges aren't exactly flush, just trim it down.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
A plique, there's some nice little plique parts.
So, Bondaweb.
So do you get the heart template in there?
You get the heart template. I've actually done mine out of grey because I cut an extra, you could get it out of your sashing blue, but I cut an extra strip and I ended up having, my leftover was a little bit too narrow for my hearts, but there was plenty from the binding.
Yeah.
And I think actually grey.
I like the grey.
I like the grey.
I think that would work really well.
So what I've done is I've just traced my heart shape on my Bondaweb and then ironed it onto
So do you find it's easier to put your Bondaweb on before you cut out? So instead of trying to put it on yet?
Yes.
I suppose you get the glue right to the edge, don't you?
Yes. And also you only have to cut once then. So I kind of roughly cut around the edge just to make it fit onto the fabric.
We have Bondaweb on the roll on the website and also the metre pieces. So if you just want to try out a plique, go for the metre piece. If you want it on the roll, we do a 5 metre roll. And honestly, when you get into this, you will get through Bondaweb like there's no tomorrow.
Yes, I love Bondaweb, especially for applique because you can do it without, but it makes it so much easier because it keeps your shapes in place when you're sewing.
Right.
So you obviously just peel that off and then you would iron it where you'd want it.
Lovely. And then stitch down, I mean, this is done raw edge, but you could do blanket stitch.
Blanket stitch, anything. What I generally say about applique is that especially the quilters who have got a nice fancy machine, but there's a lot of decorative stitches that you don't necessarily use all the time, go to town, have a, you know,
because you just need it, as long as it's sort of one of the stitches that sort of goes across and catches both fabrics, you can try out any of the really fancy ones. Nice.
Definitely.
Okay. We've got 10 minutes, so shall we do a bit of our sheeps?
Yes, let me just move all of my extras out.
Oh, by the way, also one thing I was going to ask with applique, do you use a pressing sheet or anything when you're using the bonder web?
Yes.
Right.
The Teflon sheet makes it really nice. And actually, even when you're applying your bonder web to your fabric. Yes.
Oh, I've not seen this before. Go on. So it doesn't look much, but this is actually really useful.
It is very useful. It's very useful to save your ironing mat, because I tend to...
I get glue. I've got glue on my iron on the board, which isn't good then when you start ironing your own
clothes.
No,
which I don't tend to do, but my hubby does. Yeah. He irons his shirts and then he mangles at me. So what the Teflon does is it prevents anything from sticking.
Okay.
So you can do is make a sandwich of it. So if you've got your bonder web on top of your fabric, you just press straight through.
Okay.
And it will be hot, so once you've done pressing, be careful. Don't grab it right from the middle, because you can burn your fingers a little bit. Give it from the edge or let it cool down a little bit before you open it up.
But then you can reuse this and reuse it and reuse it, can't you?
And this is really nice for bits where you've got a lot of fiddly ironing to do. So actually, this is my sheep head.
Okay.
Then you get the template in the pattern.
Yeah.
And so you get the little ear template. So these have been bonder webbed already, and I've applied it to my face. And things like the dog and cat, actually the dog.
Yeah, the quilt that we've got, that's a lot of small pieces,
Yes. So what you can do is you can place them exactly where you want them, and then just lay it over and press through, and it keeps it all together.
Nice, I'll get one of those.
Yeah.
Because I have had that problem, and I've not seen that before.
No, it is very useful.
I've seen it. Brilliant. So, okay, so the sheep.
Sheep quilt. This is the sheep. The lamb is a little bit smaller, and you've got plenty of fabric left. I've just cut 2 squares out of the same fabric.
It's up to you how you do it. This one's done different fabric on the back to the front, so this one's, we're going to do it all the same.
Yeah. And then in the instructions it tells you to draw your sheep shape first, and then hold it up to the light or over a light box in order to place your face. But I actually like the idea of actually placing my face first and then drawing my sheep around it. So what you do is you'd peel that off and iron it on.
Okay.
These are 2 strips for your feet.
When would you do the detail on the face? Do you do that at this point before you put it on?
Yes, well, you do it after you put it on, but before you sew it together.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So these are my legs.
So legs are literally just rectangles.
2 strips, rectangles, yep. And you're just going to sew 1/4 inch down one side.
Right sides, you folded it right sides on it?
Yep, right sides together. Off, and you just turn them right side around.
Oh, I always find this so fiddly. I need to get one of those little poking, turning tools. Yeah. I sit in front of the telly just turning everything through. It's like putting on your tights when you're hot. You know what I mean, Paul? Paul knows what we mean.
Yeah. He wears tights a lot.
He does, he likes to wear his tights. It's cold, isn't it? Who was it? I was watching something on the telly, and it was that Big Star, Little Stars, and it was somebody you just wouldn't expect. Oh, it was the one from, I think it was the one from JLS, and they said, oh yeah, I wear tights sometimes when it's cold under trousers. And the little child had told his secret. So yeah, you're fine.
So you've got a couple of options. You can do along the side and along the bottom and turn it out, and it would all be sewn in.
Okay.
Easy way is literally, I've just folded in my raw edge. This is how it tells you in the instructions. Fold in your raw edge inside, so the raw edges are all caught up.
Okay.
And then you just top stitch.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So I'm using my 1/4 inch foot, but I'm not doing a 1/4 inch from the edge. I'm just literally doing maybe, ooh, come on. No, it's not going to play with me.
Oh, is it come unthreaded?
Yes.
Right.
So you would just top stitch
Okay, yep, top stitch along there.
along the top there just to keep those raw edges in.
And then does this need to be tucked inside the cushion
It
somehow?
does.
Right.
So you'd have your face bond webbed on, and you turn your little sheep legs in so that the seam is towards the face. And this is so because you're going to hang, they're going to hang down, so it will get caught across here when you sew it together, but you don't want it to get the top end to get caught, so you'd pin both of these. Yeah, that would be, if that was sewn in.
About 4 minutes.
Okay. So you'd sew those in like that. I did have another pin. Okay, bond webbed your face. Do your sewing first before you sew both your pieces together.
Yeah. Would you draw them on first? Just
you could draw them on.
Just to check you're happy that they're not.
Yeah, and actually that would be a good one for the friction pen.
Yeah.
To do that. And then what you do, and I wouldn't use, well, you could use friction pen for this. Then you get to freehand the shape of your sheep. And it does recommend not having too many poofs.
Exactly, yeah.
So
less curves to sew the easier.
Yeah. So if you want to do, ooh, and I am using marker pen, but a friction pen would be better. And your last bit, you are going to leave the bottom flat.
Okay. That's a nice big fluffy sheep, isn't it?
There. Then what you would do is you would, you can cut around.
Just with your fabric scissors, yeah?
Yeah. Or you can, if you did this on the other side, you could actually just put your backing and your front together, sew around on top of your lines.
Right.
I would leave, it says a 4 inch, so if you put your legs a little bit further apart, you want to catch your legs, but you want to leave a little gap of about 4 inches somewhere along the bottom so that you can stuff it, and then hand sew it together. And that's your little sheep.
Oh, he's so cute, isn't he?
Yeah, and of course his legs will go down like that.
We love him. He's so lovely, and it's going to be such a quick and easy project. Like you said, a weekend you'll be able to do a quilt and 2 cushions as well.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
When will we see you again?
Oh, I think I'm back on the 13th.
Well, you're busy, aren't you? So it's just holidays and weekends we get to see you. But thank you so much. It's so lovely to meet you. It's so lovely. Thank you very much for today.
You're welcome.
We love that.
Perfect.
We'll see you on the 13th of Jan or 13th of
Jan. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Next Sunday. We'll see you next week then. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Right. So, we've got the kit, £52.99, but it's great value for your money to say that you get enough to do the quilt, the front, the binding, and of course your cushions as well. So in the kit you get ½ metre of the grey, ½ metre of the blue, ½ metre of the spot on, the numbers, all of them, all the numbers, up to 9, all the numbers in the sheep, all of the sheep. And then, so you have your 3 metres of ½ metre, and then you get your panel, which I didn't realise, but you don't use that, this part. You don't use this part, so you could use it as a height chart, like we said. You could use it for bunting. You could fussy cut and have them as bunting, couldn't you? You could do it for learning how to count for babies, couldn't you? You could have it as, do you know what else you could do? You could put them on the front of storage boxes. And then you say, how you learn to count? And you'll say, okay, right, go and get number 3. And you have to pick out number 3, the storage box. Or learning to tell the time, maybe. No, I know, but for an older child. Jessie, I know Jessie can't tell the time yet. My friend the other day had his phone as one of those 24-hour clock, not as 24-hour, just as like it was 4 p.m. and it was 04. And I was like, you haven't got it as 24 hours clock. He was like, oh no, can't do that. So then I changed it and he went, what kind of sick joke is that? Changing my clock to 24 hours. He was so annoyed. But no, I am. Oh, we have a hoot, don't we? This is what my mum says to me. She's like, Vic, you just chat, so you keep going on. Okay. You also get your instructions and your thread, enough to make the quilt and your sheep and the lamb. You also have your instructions. In here, we didn't mention, and I must say, the quilting on it is really, really, really lovely. And in the quilting, look, you have, you have all of your templates for quilting and also applique. They're all in there. Okay, fabrics really, really quickly. By the ½ metre, we've got a lovely heart. Hearts on light grey, £7. 49.5 metre from the Bar Baby range. Sheep. Most popular, the sheep. I suppose this is less sort of, if you want one for your own home furnishing, not necessarily for a child's quilt. £7, 49.5 metre. Scattered sheep on white. We've also got your numbers. If you do want to know all the numbers. If you think about it, all the numbers are on there. You just put them together for new numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0.